Because a man's dream will never die, he, without ever having to sleep, has never stopped dreaming. And today, you guys will discover his real ambition. Since he is an enemy of the gods, Marshal D. Teach is preparing to attack Marajwa, so as to finally make the empty throne his. So if you guys want to see the fall of the world government by the hands of the D, please like the video, and do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've not yet even had 10 One Piece chapters this year, and Blackbeard seems to be the closest character to achieving his goal. Not only did he defeat Law and got his hands on 2 of the Road Pone glyph rubbings, his crew defeated Cracker and kidnapped Pudding, thus giving him access to the power of the Three-Eyed Tribe should Pudding awaken it. With these 2 gains, Blackbeard positioned himself as a contender for the title of Pirate King. However, his goal, which was vaguely mentioned by Devin in this chapter, hints at Blackbeard's goal being something else. Rising from the title of Warlord to Yonko status would just have been steps in the way for Blackbeard to achieve his goal of King of the World. As mentioned earlier, all hints point to Blackbeard preparing to attack Marajwa sometime in the future. With Katarina Devon gaining the ability to copy Saturn's personality, and Van Ogre having the ability to warp people from place to place, if the Blackbeard pirates make their way to the Red Line, infiltrating Marajwa would become a piece of cake. This therefore means the Blackbeard pirates did not target any type of devil fruits, but specific ones, which could ultimately help Blackbeard in achieving his goal. Even so, I do not believe that the Blackbeard pirates came to Egghead Island only for Devon to copy Saturn's appearance. This does not make sense, as this possibility was very slim to begin with. This therefore means that they came to the island for something else, and already got it. The first reason why things are not adding up is that the Blackbeard pirates arrived on Egghead Island a day ago, and in that time, so much has happened. With an ability as useful as Van Ogre's, it would have been easy for them to make landfall on the island and infiltrate the labs. Even Devon's statements in the chapter allude to this being the case. The next reason has to do with the fact that the chances were very slim for such an opportunity to present itself. Also, Saturn's presence on the island was kept secret pretty much until recently. This therefore means that their meeting was most likely a coincidental one. Katarina mentioning Teach being special was new to the whole community. Oda just had to add more mystery to Blackbeard's backstory. We know that he is a member of the D family, never sleeps, and has a weird body, which enabled him to use 2 devil fruit abilities, a feat which has never been accomplished before. What made this striking is the fact that the Elder Stars themselves mentioned this to be a one-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Since we all suspect the Elder Stars to be immortal, and to have probably been around during the Void Century, this therefore means that they probably were not aware of Blackbeard's race. If I were to guess who spilled the beans, I'd say Shanks. Blackbeard comes from a special lineage, and this lineage must have a special ability. It is this ability that enabled Blackbeard to scar Shanks in their battle. Saturn mentioning this means that he must have learned about this recently from Shanks, who visited them during the reverie. Shanks had then mentioned that he wanted to talk about a certain pirate, which I do believe is Teach. We already knew that Caribou was eventually going to snitch on the Straw Hats and reveal the information to Blackbeard. The question was more or less when. This is the worst moment for him to do so, because the samurai are regaining their strength after the massive war that took place in Wano, and if the Blackbeard pirates were to attack the island to recover Pluton, they would most certainly destroy the entire island, and guess what? Blackbeard does have the devil fruit power, which could enable him to achieve this. His quakes could destroy the walls and open the borders of Wano. The combined efforts of Yamato, Momo, the Scabbards, the Samurai, and the Minks would prove futile against the Blackbeard pirates. There is evidence in the story to support this. The shipwrights in Water 7 passed down the blueprints of Pluton as a failsafe, so that, should Pluton fall in the wrong hands, there would always be an anti-Pluton to stand in its way. Also, Blackbeard showed great interest in a massive battleship earlier on. It is for this reason that he captured Bonnie in the first place, and wanted to trade her for a Navy warship. So it is clear at this point that Oda might have already foreshadowed that Blackbeard would get Pluton, and that Frankie would upgrade the Sunny into the anti-Pluton. What bothers me more is the situation that Fishman Island finds itself in. Theirs is even more complicated than Wano's because the Scabbards, Yamato, and Momo could temporarily stall the Blackbeard pirates. On the other hand, if the Blackbeard pirates were to invade Fishman Island, the battle would be one-sided. We must not also forget that someone fed Luffy while he was out of energy, and if it turns out to be Devon, this opens up the possibility for her to have touched Luffy, and thus could explain why Miss Charlie said that someone who looked like Luffy would eventually destroy Fishman Island. Devon could use Luffy's appearance to infiltrate Fishman Island and bring about its destruction. The Giants made things look easy, as they didn't seem to be trying, yet they were destroying battleship after battleship. If anything, I believe that the animators will do the Giants justice in this scene, because Big Mom alluded to Elbaf having the strongest army. But so far in the story, other than Broggy and Dory, the Giants have been very underwhelming. In this chapter, we got to see Oimo and Kashi as well as many other Giants. What piqued my interest was the tattoo on the arm of one of the Giants, which is strikingly similar to a symbol that keeps appearing time and time again in the series. They were spotted by Nami, Usopp, Edison, and Chopper, who is yet to make their acquaintance officially. In the last couple of chapters, Oda has shown us how versatile and important Van Ogre's Devil Fruit ability is to the Blackbeard pirates. With Ogre being Usopp's opponent in the Blackbeard pirate crew, I believe that the presence of the Giants on the island would inspire Usopp to pull off some great feats before this arc eventually ends. Zoro and Lucci are still going at it, and Lucci seems to be enjoying the fact that he is keeping Zoro busy because he knows that the Straw Hats will never leave without him. As for the battle, Zoro doesn't seem to be taking it seriously for three main reasons. First, he knows that they have to escape as soon as possible. Next, he is not using all his 3 swords in the fight. And finally, he hasn't worn his bandana. With this battle not seeming to conclude anytime soon, we have Oda to thank, as Jinbei is heading in that direction. I am kind of surprised by the amount of time it has taken Jinbei to get close to where Zoro and Lucci were fighting. The good news is that once Jinbei makes his way there, Rob Lucci will have to concede because there is no way that he can take on Zoro and Jinbei at the same time. Over 30 of the 100 ships had already been destroyed, so Vice Admiral Red King asked the small and medium-sized warships to retreat and to allow the offense to the battleships, which seemed to have enough destructive power to take down a Mark III Pacifista. So it appears that the situation of the Navy is not as dire as it seemed earlier. They still have about 70 ships, some of which are battleships that can take down the Mark III Pacifista. Does this mean that they can regain control over the coast? I don't think so, because we have yet to factor in the Giants into the equation. The report itself is not clear. Based on the report, we cannot tell whether the 30 ships were sunk only by the Pacifista or by both the Pacifista and the Giants. With the Sunny approaching the area where Nami, Usopp, Edison, and Chopper are, and with Jinbei closing in on Zoro, all that is left is for Luffy and Ko to make their way back to the Sunny. Standing in their way are Kizaru and Saturn. With Bonnie realizing that Luffy was Nika, I think it is safe to assume that she will permanently be tapping into the distorted future. In that light, Luffy asking Bonnie what she was trying to achieve with such a weak punch was kind of funny. I would have wanted Luffy and Bonnie to do a double attack on Saturn, but I guess Oda is saving that for later. Bonnie asks Luffy to attack Saturn, who decides to take the first draw by attacking Luffy with that weird ability of his and affecting the head. I am beginning to think that the efficiency of this specific ability of Saturn is dependent on the level of strength and haki of the target, because earlier on, Saturn casually caused the head of a Navy officer who saw him explode. But later on, this ability has not been as potent. He has of course damaged Sanji, and in this chapter, he does succeed in damaging Luffy, but this doesn't prevent Luffy from attacking him with a new move called Booming Dawn Gatling. This attack is so powerful that it sends Saturn flying. We already know that Saturn can regenerate, so I guess he will be back in no time. I think most of Luffy's Gear 5 attacks will all be bearing Dawn because he is Nika, but is not aware of what Nika is. Kizaru decided to attack Bonnie and Vegapunk, but his laser was stopped by Sanji. This shocked Frankie and Kizaru. If I were to guess how this is possible, I'd assume that his genetic enhancements were yet again the cause of this power-up. Stella is not looking in good shape. He even makes this more apparent when they want to move him. As a doctor, he says that he already knows that if they move him, he will die. So Atlas, Bonnie, and Frankie left for the northeast port. With Saturn on his way back, and Kizaru ready to go in, the final battle of this arc could be Sanji versus Kizaru and Luffy versus Saturn. Of course, this does not mean that Sanji will be able to defeat Kizaru, but it would mean that he could at least stall him for a while. I want to think that in the next few chapters, Oda will up the stakes, because the ancient giant has to do at least something before the end of the arc. Another issue that needs to be resolved is who will carry Stella to safety. The one character who can administer first aid is extremely far from him, so it is becoming extremely likely that Stella might die. This chapter was a solid one and has me hyped for the ending of this arc. Let me know your thoughts about this chapter in the comments section. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one.